Today's lesson is going to be on parallel and perpendicular lines and their slope relationships. So parallel lines have the same slope. They are equal when you do them. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So opposite reciprocal means that they are going to be opposite fractions and opposite signs. So, for example, one is going to be plus and one is going to be minus. That's the opposite in nature. Reciprocal means if I flip it over, it's the same thing. So it could be 6 over 7, 7 over 6. So for the opposite, one would have to be positive and one would have to be negative. So, in example 1, since I am a positive slope, that means my v1 has to be negative, and then I just flip my fraction over. So 4 comes on top, and 3 comes on bottom. That would be a reciprocal. 2, now to write 2 as a fraction, I can make it 2 over 1. So if I flip it over, it's now 1 over 2, and since it's positive, this guy needs to become negative. And 3 is already negative, so I can make it positive, and then flip that fraction over, 8 over 7. On 1, 1 as a fraction is just 1 over 1. It's positive, so I need to make it negative, and flip it over, it's still just 1 over 1. So you could just write this one as negative 1. That's fine as well. Last side was 0. So 0, if you think back deep in the cobwebs, 0 slope. So what we talked about last lesson, the 0 slope. So the amount of effort it takes you to walk a straight line. Well, that straight line is a horizontal line, and it's flat, and it takes you no effort. So a 0 slope comes from a horizontal line. And if these negative reciprocals or opposite reciprocals are coming from perpendicular lines, that means that they're intersecting at a 90-degree angle. The only thing that can be perpendicular to a horizontal line is going to have to be your vertical line. And if you think back, the amount of effort it takes to climb a straight building up, just scale the wall, you can't define it. So a vertical line has an undefined slope. So there we would say it is undefined. All right, let's dive into them. So let's go to number 3. So first we have to find the slope of both of our lines. So looking at our first one, line AB, your slope, remember, is going to be change in y over change in x. So your slope formula is going to be y sub 1 minus y sub 2 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2. Y is on top, x is on bottom. So when I'm writing the slope of the first one, I'm going to start with a, so negative 12y minus 2 for my y, over, starting with a again, negative 9, minus negative 2 for my b. So that's like negative 12 minus 2, which is negative 14, over negative 9 plus positive 2, which is negative 7. Always reduce these. That way when you're comparing them, you're actually comparing valid fractions that have been reduced. Negative 14 divided by 7 is 2. My slope of AB is 2. My other one, I have CD. Starting with C, my y is 6 minus my y from B, negative 2. Over, since I started with C, I do it again, negative 1 minus my y from, or x from B, negative 5. That's negative 6 plus positive 2, which is 8, and negative 1 plus positive 5, which is 4, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So both of my slopes are 2, both of my slopes are the same, which means that they are parallel lines. And remember, those 2 vertical is how we represent the parallel lines. All right, let's look at number 5. All right, so looking at the slope of AB, starting with A, my y is 3, minus my y from B is 4. Over, starting with my x in A, 2, minus my x from B, negative 1. So that's 3 minus 4, which is negative 1, over 2 plus positive 1, which is 3. So negative 1/3 there. Do another one of CB. Starting with C, my y is 3, minus my y from B is 6. Over, starting with x from C, negative 5, minus my x from D, negative 4. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. 5 plus positive 4 is negative 1. Negative divided by negative is positive, so 3. Alright guys, I have a fraction and a number. If you want, you can always write this as a number, so 3 over 1. So checking, 1 is positive, 1 is negative. And if I flip 1/3 over, it's 3 over 1. If I flip 3 over 1 over, it's 1/3. So these guys are going to be perpendicular. Okay, let's go to number 9. All right, let's do AB. So starting with my A value for y, negative 8, minus y value for B, negative 10, over x value from A is 5, minus x value from B is negative 2. So negative 8 plus positive 10 is 2, and 5 plus positive 2 is 7. That cannot be reduced, so it's 2 over 7. Okay, CB, starting with C, my y is negative 13, minus my y from D, which is 1. Starting with C again, my x is negative 6, minus my x from D is negative 2. So negative 3 minus 1 is negative 14, and 6 plus positive 2, negative 6 plus positive 2 is negative 4. Negative divided by negative is positive, and 14 and 4 both share 2. So if I divide them both by 2, we get 7 over 2. Well, looking at them, they're reciprocals. 2 over 7 flipped is 7 over 2, but they're both positive. So this one's going to be neither. You have to be opposite reciprocals. Not just opposite, not just reciprocal. They need to happen at the same time. So in this case, this one would be neither. Alright, go ahead and pause the video and do number 6 on your own. Type in the answer when you're prompted to. Alright, and go ahead and do number 8 and type in your answer when you're prompted to on the video. Okay, let's look at some special cases. So if I do the slope of AB here, well, starting with A, my y value is negative 2, minus my y value from B is 7, over, starting with x and A is 0, minus x and B is 0. Negative 7 minus, or negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9, over 0. Okay, negative 9 over 0. You type it into your calculator, you get an error. You cannot divide by 0. So in this case, you get an error, so you get an undefined slope. Which remember, that goes with a vertical line. Undefined, you cannot put words to the amount of effort it's going to take you to scale that building. So let's look at the slope of CB. Starting in y, negative 5, minus y from B, negative 5, over x 3 minus x 6. Negative 5 plus positive 5 is 0. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. 0 divided by negative 3 is 0. And remember, walking a flat straight line takes 0 effort, so this is horizontal. Horizontal and vertical lines always intersect in a perpendicular nature. So the most important part here is that you're just remembering 0 can never be in the denominator of your fraction. If that happens, it's undefined. 0 can be in the numerator. If that happens, it is 0. Alright, you guys go ahead and pause the video and try number 12 on your own and type in your answer when you're prompted to on the video.